If you are in American media and you are a Zionist, that environment is like your brain is boiling in a stew. It will make you insane. It'll make you insane. It will erode your cognitive faculties. You will lose your goddamn mind. Oliver Larkin is hashtag our boy. DSA candidate, right? Yeah, he's DSA. Okay, I don't know why I have it in my head that that's a question. He's cool. We like Oliver. We like Oliver Larkin. He keeps getting, this is not the first time this has happened. Oliver Larkin got a big boost to his notoriety because he was being interviewed by Fox, I think. He was pitched an opportunity to call Trump a pedophile, which he did. And he did great, and that got him a lot of attention. And now it's happened again, where a Chud reporter has given him the opportunity to really like benefit from their incompetence. Let's just watch the clip, okay?
Israel is committing a genocide in
That's
Gaza.
incorrect. That is factually incorrect. Another big issue that's going to be in 25, where I think the statistic is 1 in 4 voters in D25 is Jewish. You have said you want to essentially defund Israel. Israel, one of many countries that the U.S. contributes to. How are you going to explain to your Jewish voters that you would like to essentially put Israel in an existential threat?
Well, just genuine, just unimaginably psychotic question, obviously, in 1,000 ways. But she's really set Oliver up. Here. And I mean that in a good way. Like, she's really teed him up here because, and here's the theme, right? Zionists don't know how they sound to normal people. She comes across so fucking deranged. She makes him look so fucking good.
I look at this as making sure that we actually practice democracy abroad as well as at home. And when the nation-state law in Israel was passed in, I believe, 2018, that created a much more tiered system of citizenship that privileges Jewish citizens above Palestinians. I don't believe it is in the United States' interest to support that. And we've also got our own laws on the books, the Leahy laws, that prohibit the military funding from the Department of Defense and Department of State from providing.
Let me just stop you for 1 second. That actually is factually incorrect. There was not a Palestinian state in 18. What I want to talk about is the here and now of the state of Israel exists in 1948, which actually was supposed to be a two-state solution and then rejected by the Arab states. But here and now, a large chunk of the funding that goes to Israel is defensive funding for Iron Dome.
I'm not getting into debunking the stuff that she says. Obviously, like, she's wrong on every level here, but let's hold on, the full clip.
Rather defensive. And then military funding greatly increased after the October 7th massacre. So I guess my question to you is, taking away Israel's money, which actually is a much more complicated equation because
also the Arabs were so base to reject the two-state solution. I mean, how would you imagine using that kind of rhetoric in any other context, you know? Oh yeah, China invaded the United States and the United States rejected China's two-state solution where China gets to keep the eastern seaboard. What the fuck are you talking about?
Israeli tech.
Oh yeah, sorry, 1 second. I nearly skipped over a funny bit.
So I guess my question to you is, taking away Israel's money, which actually is a much more complicated equation because it's
treason, obviously treason. I'm sorry. We just move it along.
Israeli tech and the economic benefits that come back to the U.S. for job creation is all part and parcel of that, which not a lot of people talk about, but
because it's complete horseshit. The idea that like us giving them fucking Iron Dome money somehow comes back to benefit us, absolutely ridiculous.
Taking away a defensive mechanism for a state which has an existential threat all around it, stated by the terrorists who want to annihilate it.
So I think again, like the takeaway that I get from this, and I've said a million times, like, Zionists are really bad, unlike the Nazis, who, at least up until a point, were relatively disciplined in their external messaging, not internally. In Germany, they were really fucking crazy pretty much from the get-go, and they stayed fucking crazy. But externally, the Nazi Party did a lot of work to pitch itself, to lie, right? To populations in other countries to try to pacify them. The narrative that they just wanted the Sudetenland or Austria or whatever, like, they put effort into presenting themselves as more reasonable than they were. Whereas Zionists are incapable of this largely because they've drank their own Kool-Aid. The reason Israel was capable of masquerading itself for so long, even though it's been run by delusional, insane ethno-nationalists pretty much from the get-go. I mean, hell, there were Zionist militias who were openly ethno-nationalist even before the formation of Israel. But the reason they were able to get away with this for so long is because the original crop of Israel defenders, Jewish or Christian, whatever else, right? Or I guess Muslim, but not as many of those, were well-educated, usually American or at least Western European, and relatively disciplined in their messaging, right? They were like a tight-knit group of propagandists who understood what they were doing, advancing the interests of a client state for military purposes, for economic purposes, whatever else. America had tons of these, right? Throughout the Cold War, we had like versions of this for bunches of countries. Remember how for a while there was a question as to whether or not leadership of Venezuela would be passed over to that woman, thank you, Benjamin, one sec. Remember that woman? What's her name? She was the American toady who was trying to replace oh god, I'm blanking. Machado, thank you. Yeah. She was like she was given the Nobel Peace Prize because nothing is real or sacred, and the idea from her perspective was that she was like an ally to the United States who, if given power in Venezuela, would turn it over to U.S. business interests, right? You all understand? That's kind of like the Zionists, in a sense, in that all over the world throughout the Cold War, we had little pockets of these propagandists, people who were deferential to the United States, who integrated themselves into American academia, American media, American politics, and basically worked to be like the beneficiaries of an insincere propaganda campaign to get Americans to care. France had this all across Francophone Africa and in Vietnam and Korea. Or in Korea? No, I'm thinking just Vietnam mostly. France had this. Colonial empires have this. England had it everywhere. Basically, what I'm saying is that we used to have a lot more of these, but Israel's kind of like the one big remaining one, essentially. And the reason that have gotten so bad at propaganda is because they've existed long enough for the original crop of propagandists to die off. Now they've been replaced with people who were themselves raised by the delusional propagandists. You know what I mean? Am I making sense here? Like, the original crop of propagandists were disciplined, the current one is not, which is why you get stuff like this.
Essentially taking away defense. And I think that's a very important thing for viewers in your district, because that's what they want to hear you talk about. Why?
Israel is committing a genocide in
That's
Gaza.
incorrect. That is factually incorrect.
It has been regarded by the United Nations and Amnesty International and even Israeli human rights organizations, including B'Tselem. There's
the definition of genocide in the UN has said this, does not apply to what many people might think as a disproportionate wartime act.
So this is what I mean about being bad at propaganda. I have no idea why you would take this angle to defend Israel, but the UN has said that Israel's committing a genocide. Like, why would you do this? Like, well, factually, that's incorrect when it isn't. Why would you engage in technicality? This is the reason why Zionists browbeat. They don't try to argue with you on the facts, because if they do, they draw attention to the facts, which don't make them look very good. It would be like if Nazi propaganda against Jewish people was. So for those of you who don't know, the Nazis didn't really like IQ because Ashkenazi Jews did pretty good. The average like Bavarian German pig fucker / farmer probably had an IQ of like 42 back then, I'm guessing. Whereas like the average Berlin educated Ashkenazi Jew was fucking lapping them, like basically different, just intellectually not even comparable entities. So the Nazis didn't like IQ. It didn't make them look that good. But it would be like if Nazi propaganda was centered around the argument that Ashkenazi Jews had a lower IQ than the average German, which is just like, why would you draw attention to that dynamic? You know what I mean? You understand what I'm talking about? Why, as a Zionist, would you bring up the UN's opinion to defend your argument that Israel's not committing a genocide? Why would you bring that up? Well, the only explanation I can think of is that she's just insane. She's just insane. Like, she just genuinely doesn't know. Just a loyal toady to a foreign country who just repeats what she's told.
Action, that's what that is in many people's minds. Genocide is a very specific thing. Actually, genocide being committed against Jewish people not by Israel. And that's just a fact.
I mean, the United Nations recently in Geneva found that the IDF had deliberately targeted women and children. There's been famine conditions imposed over the Gaza Strip by the blockading of aid entering the Strip. There's been indiscriminate bombing.
Yeah, she's like one question away from denouncing the UN. She has an end goal. Yeah, if you're a Zionist, why would you ever cite the UN's opinion on anything? Because anything, any actual thing the UN has ever said, there's a reason why every time Israel shows up at a UN meeting, they throw a fit. Like, there's no, why would you bring them up? That's crazy. It would be like RFK Jr. citing CDC precedent to justify being anti-vaccine mandate. It would be like if RFK Jr. went out there and he said, actually, Dr. Anthony Fauci thinks that you shouldn't get mRNA vaccines. Why would you lie about that? What's the point of lying about that? Anyway.
Bombing of hospitals, of mosques, of churches, of...
Again, I'm going to have to stop you, as that is factually not correct.
What you can do this fucking debate bro thing where you're like, well, technically that's not accurate. Why are you doing this bit? What is the point of this bit?
But I hear you talking about something very important to a lot of people, and certainly who think that way. But as a congressman, and I'm being told we have to wrap. But as a congressman for District 25, I'm hoping your viewers will be able to hear you flesh that out a little more, as well as the Medicare for All and universal education. And
which you seemed really interested in talking about, by the way. Israel literally brags about doing this stuff too. Yeah, it's one of the reasons why, I mean, the Ellisons, you know, the deep state are so interested in squelching social media, because it's, you know, it's pretty difficult to keep this bit up. It would be possible if Israel's disciples, if their messengers, if their propagandists were well disciplined, but they're really, really not. So there's not much you can, like, it's an unwinnable PR battle from their perspective. Basically, everyone under 50 in this country despises Israel, and it's only getting worse every year, you know? The point is fuckery, post-truth politics, or low-grade conspiracy. But I think it's worse than post-truth politics, because we all know everyone lies all the time. I just think that it's another step as a Zionist to go, well, technically the UN hasn't said it's a genocide, because it's like it's not just a lie, it's like anti-truth. You're literally harming your ability. Look, I'll put it this way, and thank you for reminding me, Fallen Rose. This woman, she's privated her Twitter and deleted her Instagram after this. Overwhelmingly, everyone who has seen this clip is siding with Oliver Larkin. However you may think of her and whatever you may think of her strategy, the outcome of this has been a huge boost in public positive attention towards Oliver Larkin. For a nice bit of contrast, here is the same woman 2 years ago interviewing the man that Oliver Larkin is currently running against, Jared Moskowitz.
You know, in Congress, the support for Israel is not 100% universal, but almost universal, bipartisan, bicameral. And yet, we are watching in the Biden administration as well, or watching as the air offensive continues and the images of what the Gazan civilians are enduring there. You hear the narrative nationwide begin to erode in that support. I know you and your colleagues are working on resolutions in support.
Notice how even while defending Israel, she calls it the narrative. Really, really telling there. Like, why would you say the narrative from the defensive here as the Zionist? Like, okay, I'll put it this way. Another comparison, right? Imagine if you're Jewish in America in 1941. Back then, knowledge of the Holocaust wasn't like super broadly well known in America. Depending on how much you paid attention, you could kind of see the signs, but you understand. Imagine going on the news back then and being like, you know, the like anti-war sentiment in America is compromising the narrative that the Holocaust is. Doesn't that make it sound really insincere? Like, if I was concerned about, like, genuinely concerned about some injustice abroad, the idea, like, referring to it top down as a narrative being challenged or eroded, I don't know. It's just, they're really bad at their jobs. Just Zionist toadies in American media. They have done a very, very bad job. They're so widely hated. It is very odd. It's 100% odd.
What more can Congress do to set the narrative?
They've had it easy for so long. I guess, like, from a propaganda perspective, it is kind of like the propaganda equivalent of like being surprised that an old hunting dog that's being fed skirt steak every day of its life is no longer capable of running a mile in fucking 4 minutes or whatever, you know? Like the Darwinian influences that keeps propagandists on their A game has not been in place. They have not been affecting the behavior of Israeli propagandists for a long fucking time. These people have had the easiest jobs in the world. AIPAC just gets to phone up every US rep and tell them what to believe. They've been doing this for decades. She had an email exchange after the interview. Glenna Milberg, in an email exchange after this interview, admits to an error on WPLG Local 10, stating the UN has said the definition of genocide does not apply. She affirms the UN has recognized it as a genocide. See, this to me just further confirms that she's insane. Like, did she really not know? Did she really not know? I don't care for the formatting on this. Nah, she's just lying on the cuff or off the cuff. Maybe. I think she's just insane. I just think she's crazy. I think she's crazy. I think it's and another point to my broader argument that you can think the autism away is people really underdiscuss how much politics can make you like crazy. You know, environmental circumstances can affect you in both directions. You know what I mean? If you are in American media and you are a Zionist, that environment is like your brain is boiling in a stew. It will make you insane. It'll make you insane. It will erode your cognitive faculties. You will lose your goddamn mind. In the same way, and this happens to basically any like hardcore conspiracy group. It might start as one incorrect belief, and loads of people have one, often many more, wildly incorrect beliefs. But stewing in an environment where you have to justify and defend the incorrect belief over and over and over again, it compromises everything around it. You know what I mean? It's like an uncontrolled demolition, you know? You can never you can't put a bomb in your faculties of reason in one specific instance and not expect it to take down a couple blocks around it. This is why conservatism is a mental illness. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think, I mean, it's why people point out, like people say transphobia is a mental illness. Being transphobic doesn't necessarily mean you're crazy. You're wrong, but you're not necessarily crazy. As a matter of fact, you can easily construct normative, ethical, and, you know, views of the world that are certainly by my definition transphobic, but are still relatively like consistent. You know what I mean? You can be wrong consistently, essentially. It's pretty easy to be wrong consistently. But in practice, transphobia drives people fucking insane. Like, there are so many examples of people who started, like J.K. Rowling is probably like the biggest one, right? Who started with like a wrong position, but it has taken down everything else in their brain like dominoes. And now it's just rot. There's just nothing left up here, you know? Many such cases. Zionism did that to ContraPoints. Yeah, in a way, that's true. Yeah, for sure. Kind of full circles around a little bit, you know? Zionism is clearly a kind of like starting domino piece for a lot of genuine insanity on the, I was about to say the left, not the left, I guess, like the center or left of center, because you end up destroying so much. You're taking people who are nominally liberal, who ostensibly have liberal values, and then it's like, no matter what, you have to defend this genocidal ethno-state. Hey, liberals, ding, 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 I'm dinging a bell right now. Hey, liberals, no matter what, you have to defend this rabid, lunatic rogue state that hates us, does nothing but destroy, is evil and opposed to your values in every way. All of their representatives are open fascists. Every day they go on like some local fucking Israeli podcast and talk about how they love slaughtering Arabs. You have to defend this. If you're put in a position where you have to defend, I'd go crazy. I'd absolutely lose my mind. I'm like, well, here's all my like general values, and then I have this like extra thing over here that I have to defend no matter what. I have to defend with my life. Yeah, I would lose my fucking mind. No, it's why consistency is important, which, you know, it's an unachievable goal, right? Perfect consistency, you know, you try your best, but this is not you defending your food takes. It's the starting domino, you know? The tuna slop is going to take down everything else. It starts with me saying tuna mixed with garlic powder and Greek yogurt is delicious, and it ends with me thinking 9/11 was an inside job. You have to defend Ben Gvir. Do you get to that? I'm 2 food takes away from defending Ben Gvir. Yeah, it started with salting Pop Tarts. I don't want to talk about it.